How big were the earthquakes in Turkey, Syria? More than 9,000 people are now known to have been killed in the earthquakes that struck Turkey and Syria. The death toll is expected to rise as more victims are found in remote areas. The first quake struck near the Turkish city of Gaziantep. Destruction stretches along Turkey's southern border and parts of northern Syria. International rescue crews are beginning to arrive in the quake zone now. Two large earthquakes struck the southeastern region of Turkey near the border with Syria on Monday, killing thousands and toppling residential buildings across the region. The first earthquake, measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale, struck at 4:17 a.m., 1:17 Greenwich Mean Time, and was centered in the Pazarcık district of Turkey's Kahramanmaraş province. Less than 12 hours later, a second magnitude 7.6 tremor struck the same region. The tremors were felt by millions of people across the region up to 1,000 kilometers, 621 miles, away. Magnitude 7 earthquakes are considered major. How big is a 7.8 quake on the local magnitude scale? While an earthquake magnitude of 2.5 or less can pass by undetected, earthquakes with a magnitude of 7.0 or higher are classified as a major earthquake, which can cause serious damage. A magnitude 8.0 or higher, considered a great earthquake, is capable of destroying entire communities. Amid calls for the Turkish government to send more help to the disaster zone, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan visited a tent city in Kahramanmaraş, where people forced from their homes are living. He conceded shortfalls early in Turkey's disaster response but vowed that no one would be left in the streets. Turkey now has tens of thousands of aid personnel in the quake zone, and search teams from more than 24 countries have joined them. But with the devastation so widespread, many are still waiting for help, and hope of rescuing survivors is fading. The first 72 hours are considered to be critical, as the condition of people trapped and injured can deteriorate quickly and become fatal if they are not rescued and given medical attention in time. Stephen Godby, a natural hazards expert at Nottingham Trent University in England. Turkey's disaster management agency said Wednesday that the recovered bodies of people who died in the earthquakes but cannot be identified would be buried within 5 days even if they remained unnamed. The agency, known as AFAD, said unidentified victims would be buried following DNA tests, fingerprinting and after being photographed for future identification. In the Turkish city of Malatya, bodies were placed side by side on the ground, covered in blankets, while rescuers waited for funeral vehicles to pick them up, according to former journalist Ozal Paykal, who saw 8 bodies pulled from the ruins of building. Death toll from earthquakes in Turkey and Syria hit 16,000 2 days after a devastating magnitude 7.8 earthquake killed more than 16,000 people in Turkey and Syria. Families huddled in the cold rain, hitching tarps to make improvised tents, resting on bits of furniture pulled from the wreckage and lining up for shoes, blankets, anything available. Three days after an earthquake-devastated war ravaged Syria, the United Nations said on Wednesday that very little aid has trickled to government-held areas and it has been unable to send a single convoy of aid to opposition-held territory. Nearly 11 million people inside Syria have been affected by the earthquake, according to the UN, and 4 million of them rely on aid agencies for basic humanitarian needs like clean water and food. Survivors in Harim, Syria, described waking up and trying to evacuate when the earthquake struck in the middle of the night. The building, the floors, the homes, they were collapsing on top of people, one woman explained. The European Union will work with the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs to get aid to both opposition and government-controlled areas of Syria, an EU official said Wednesday, after Syria's government lodged a formal request for aid with the bloc 2 days after a catastrophic earthquake. Turkey leader acknowledges earthquake relief problems as death toll passes 16,000. The death toll from earthquakes that struck Turkey and Syria this week passed 16,000 on Thursday amid anger from those left destitute and frustrated over the slow arrival of rescue teams. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, who contests an election in May, said on a visit to the disaster zone on Wednesday that operations were now working normally and promised no one would be left homeless. Across a swathe of southern Turkey, people sought temporary shelter and food in freezing winter weather, and waited in anguish by piles of rubble where family and friends might still lie buried. Rescuers were still finding some people alive, but many Turks have complained of a lack of equipment, expertise and support to rescue those trapped, sometimes even as they could hear cries for help.